I decided to ask ChatGPT for help with something. It basically said, "Hi, the day before yesterday I had to call my internet service provider because the internet was down, and the guy at the desk, of course, tried to upsell me, but he found something he could do with it, and that I wanted the new app to stop robocallers and spammers and nuisance callers, so I signed up for premium unlimited service to get it working, and oh wow, the camera's on. Like, what? Anyways, but I basically said, so I got an email just recently explaining that their arbitration terms were changing, and when I got it, I immediately had to examine the contract in order to essentially find the opt-out process in order to opt out of arbitration. Unfortunately, most consumers don't know about this or why they should opt out, and I'm kind of at a loss for how to best frame the argument for doing so. To more normal folks, any suggestions? ChatGPT says you've done something that most people don't even realize is an option: reading the arbitration clause and opting out. Framing this for normal folks means connecting it to everyday experiences and consequences, not legal technicalities. You know, and so it basically, it's basically saying, so it basically gave me this. Here's a short legal explainer you could share with friends or family or even post online. Why you should opt out of arbitration if you can. What is arbitration? Arbitration is a system companies use to settle disputes outside of court. On paper, it sounds convenient, but the reality is it usually protects the company and not you. What you lose if you don't opt out: your right to sue in court. You can't take the company before a real judge. Your right to join others. You can't join a class action lawsuit even if the company's wrong thousands of people the same way. Your right to transparency. Arbitration is private, so shady behavior stays hidden. Your right to appeal. If an arbitrator rules against you, it's almost impossible to challenge. If you provide everyday examples, if your provider double bills you for months on end, you have to fight them in court. You have to fight them alone in their system. If they leak your personal data, you can't hold them accountable in open court. It's like letting the restaurant manager decide if they owe you anything after serving you food poisoning. They decide if they owe you anything after serving you food poisoning. Why opting out helps you: it's free. Sending the opt-out letter usually costs nothing, but sometimes you have to send them a registered letter just so you have proof that you sent it, which is unfortunate, but that's the reality of some of these things. It doesn't lock you in. You don't have to sue, but you keep the choice. It's protection. Think of it as keeping a spare tire in your trunk. You might never need it, but if you do, you'll be glad it's there. Bottom line here is that arbitration is great for companies, but not for you. Opting out is one of the easiest consumer rights protections you can take. If the company does something unfair down the line, you'll want the courts. You want the courts on your side, not just the company's hired referee. Action step: if their contract gives you the option, send that opt-out notice before before the deadline. It only takes a few minutes, and it can save you big headaches later. So basically, that's basically what the program is advising me to tell you. So it is like, it very much so is like, carrying a spare tire in your trunk. You might never need it, but you'll be glad it's there if it ever comes to it. It's like free insurance essentially, just in case something goes wrong, and that's why you should opt out. Now there are some pushbacks that say that lawsuits are expensive. You know, you know, but class action lawsuits exist so regular people don't have to pay up front. Basically, I'll never sue my internet company. You don't know what the future holds. You'd want options if something serious happens. It's easier to arbitrate. It was easier for the company, not for you. And for those reasons, you should totally opt out if when you get these letters in the mail or in your snail, not in your. So basically, I gave a bunch of technical jargon for this yesterday, but I said, when you get the paper ones, you're going to want a solution that will let you scan the documents and digitize them. The whole problem with that is that once it's scanning, it's still a picture, so you can't, search the text. and everything. So you need something that can actually look at the image and pull the text out. That's what OCR is. That's optical character recognition. You know, and machines can automate that process these days. You know, they can do that. You know, they can pull the text out so that you can search within it, you know, after you scan a document. But that's an extra step that needs to be taken in order to do it, you know, to explain like I'm five to people. You know, that's what OCRing it is, you know, in OCR solutions, which you can ask ChatGPT to help you with. You know, you can ask them for advice on which scanners to buy and everything, and you know, it'll tell you all that information. But you, for all these reasons, you know, you should opt out if you can.